Well, I don't know about you, but I've just about woken up after Monday night. West Ham 0, Newcastle 1. It seems a little bit also like deja vu from what was it, the Brentford game, where it was just a really rubbish game of football that West Ham didn't turn up in, and nor did the opponents really, but we still managed to lose the game. I'm James Jones. You are listening to the We Are West Ham podcast, as you already know, and I always do this, but you're probably a little bit shocked that you're hearing my voice instead of Will's at the beginning of the podcast, and that's because this week Will is off. He's called in, not called in sick, but he's had to pull out last minute because he had, in his own words, a massive shoot up in Birmingham at work. He told me what that involved. I'm not too sure whether I can reveal what he was doing. It is incredibly impressive, but maybe we'll let him reveal all on next week's pod when he's back. But instead, in Will's absence, I'm joined by Alex. Alex, how are you, mate?
Very good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, like I said,
I
I've
was
just about
a bit,
woken up.
a bit down, a bit too down after that game because it was boring. But here we
Yeah,
are.
yeah. It's we'll try not to bore everyone with the details of Monday night, but we've still got to go through it. We've still got to do our job and give our thoughts on all the major talking points, of which there aren't very many, but we will touch on them. Also, this week we are going to be reading out some messages from our listeners on Patreon. We're going to touch a little bit on the Mikel Antonio tribute and the rather impressive tifo that was shown in his honour on the Bobby Moore stand. Lucas Paqueta's trial starts on Monday for his betting accusations. Is this going to be his last game this weekend for West Ham United? We're going to touch on Somerville's injury and then look ahead to the big David Moyes derby. And I still haven't actually asked Will who he's supporting this weekend. Is it David Moyes or is it West Ham?
David Moyes, I think. Yeah.
It's probably going to be David Moyes, yeah. So yeah, lots to get through, but we're not going to bore you for too long. We realise that it's now 48 hours since the Newcastle game. We couldn't record yesterday. We were all very, very busy. But we will do our best in Will's absence to get you through this week. Before we start, remember, you can follow us on all the social media platforms. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. We're on TikTok. Alex does a great job on TikTok and Instagram with the videos. And as I've already mentioned, we are on Patreon for less than the price of a cup of coffee every single month. You can catch us on Patreon. It's ad free and early access. If you don't join Patreon, you don't get any less than what the paying subscribers do. It's just to help us keep the podcast going in these very, very busy times for all of us. We're all very busy. It takes a lot of time to get this done every single week. So anyone who subscribes, your support is very much appreciated. But yeah, less than a cup of coffee every month, and we will read your messages and all your comments on there every single week, which I'll get to a little bit later. But let's talk Newcastle. We'll get straight into it, Alex. No messing about. An incredibly drab game. I didn't actually realise how drab it was until on the drive home, and I was reflecting, and then kind of was trying to reflect on key moments. Realised that I couldn't really remember any key moments, and then came to the conclusion that it was a really rubbish game of football. Would you agree, mate? Because I mean, I'm still struggling to take many positives from it.
I mean, I think I can find positives in it, which I will do eventually. But it was, of course, a boring game because it was. I think that they clearly had an eye on the cup final. I don't think they were out there quite like pressing bastards, but I think they still sort of stopped us playing quite a lot. Well, I think we'll get onto like sort of the team that we played that sort of stops us. Really, realistically, who's going to create a chance in our starting 11? Kudus and Bowen, and Kudus hasn't really been firing, so really technically feels like a one-man attack in Bowen at times, and I think we've become a little bit predictable, and I think we just didn't really create anything really, did we? Besides a cross in the first minute that Souček had put away, and that really needed that to sort of open the game up. But besides that, we didn't really create anything. But then at the same time, which is why I'm going to get onto the positives eventually, is because neither did they really create anything, really. I mean, we can talk their goal, possibly a foul, maybe. Like, I don't want to sound like an Arsenal conspiracy theorist and start moaning about that. That could have been a foul. I mean, their other best opportunity was a Kilman deflected. Areola made a great save for. Besides that, I think they had one Barnes chance. But I mean, yeah, it felt very like 0-0 or something's what's going to happen, like a stupid penalty or a deflected shot. It felt like you're watching that and you're like 60 minutes and you just felt very 0-0-y. And I was already going, three clean sheets in a row. But, Isak loves a little push in the box, doesn't he?
Yeah, it certainly felt to me like it was a bit of a missed opportunity, given Newcastle would have had one eye on that cup final on Sunday against Liverpool. And I feel like this is the best time to play this Newcastle. They're not in great league form. The wheels appeared like they were beginning to fall off a little bit on their sort of European push. And that felt like because they were building up to, potentially winning a first trophy in 70 years. And that's a big distraction for Newcastle. So I felt like we should be going there and we should be taking it to them. And, we almost did that in the first minute with Souček. And he normally buries those, which is a bit of a shock. He normally puts those away. But that was why it surprised me with the way that Graham Potter set up, 5 at the back. We have been a lot more solid 5 at the back. But in a game like this, where we'd have put Newcastle under an immense amount of pressure constantly, it felt like we probably could have got the breakthrough that we didn't get. That it almost felt like we could have got if we approached it a different way.
Yeah, I would. I think Newcastle. I think we're forgetting that they are still a really good team. Like even if you take Gordon and Hall, and although they probably weren't at their best, they still are. I think we dealt with Isak pretty well, to be honest, especially Kilman. But they are still a really good team, and that midfield is incredibly physical. Like Bruno Guimaraes, Jolin, and Tonali, they would, if you get through, they will just foul you, technically. And the pressing's really good. And we struggle, as I said earlier, we struggle to get out. I think with our lineup, which was quite negative, and I can understand why he went with the 5 at the back, because we've conceded too many goals under the back end of David Moyes and onto Lopetegui. I think, as Potter correctly pointed out, it's like 2 a game. So I can understand the need you're trying to build something and you have to build the foundations first. And the foundations comes from defence, especially when we've been so leaky and open and terrible defensively, over the last 18 months. I think we've got to be the worst team to have not gone down defensively, because last season we conceded 70 plus goals. And Lopetegui left, and we conceded 39 in the league in 20 games, which is shocking. So I can understand what Potter's trying to do is focus on the defence, make us hard to beat, what we have been. And I think we definitely were hard to beat for Newcastle on Monday night. But at the same time, obviously we do want to see more going forward, especially with some of the players we've got, like the Bowen, Kudus, if he can get back to his best level, even Paqueta coming off the bench, Ferguson coming off the bench. You're expecting a little bit more. You are expecting more going forward, but I'm still fairly positive because we are better defensively, and that has been something that we've absolutely needed to be for the last 18 months.
Yeah, I get your point. Graham Potter did come out after and said that was job number 1 when he arrived, was to sort us out defensively. I think it was a very low key dig at Lopetegui's West Ham. But he even quoted how many goals we conceded in the first half of the season. And that is a positive. In 3 games we conceded 1 goal against 2 teams in particular, in Arsenal and Newcastle, who are very, very good going forward. I know obviously Arsenal was a bit different because they didn't have a striker, but they've still got quality in that team.
We also frustrated Villa and Chelsea for long periods as well.
Exactly.
They were 2 good sides as well. I think we matched both of those, didn't we? And that's 3 games against Villa twice. We absolutely matched them, maybe better than them. So that's what I'm saying. It's like the defence, even if it's an extremely negative lineup on paper, what it is, at least it's making us hard to beat, and that is what's needed between now and the end of the season. And over the summer, we give Potter the tools to hopefully build the attack. And also, I think long term, whether maybe we'll go to a 4, maybe we'll stick with a 5. It'll be a more attacking 5 if we do, especially that 3 in midfield. Because realistically, what Prowse, Alvarez, Souček in a team that technically wants to keep the ball, it's just not going to work.
Yeah,
it's just not going to work.
Agreed. I wonder whether obviously if Paqueta had been fit, maybe he's in that 11 and sort of gives that creativity from the off. I think he probably came on a little bit too late, really, to impact the game. Really did come on. But you mentioned earlier that you had positives. Is that your only positive, that defensively we look a lot better, Alex? Or were there other things that you saw on Monday night that should give fans more reason to be optimistic moving forward?
I think we're moving the ball pretty well as well. I think that did improve. Maybe we did improve a little bit under Lopetegui with that, but I think we're moving the ball around the defence really well. I think Hillman, Todibo, Cresswell, that back three, they're keeping possession incredibly well. Ward-Prowse doing that thing where he'd like, Paul Ward-Prowse is sort of the deepest of the three, weirdly, which almost you think that doesn't really quite make sense with Alvarez there. But when he drops deep and plays those balls, sort of like he'll drop deep and he'll sort of flick it out to the wing backs and sort of rotate the ball. He's good with his back to play, if that makes sense, in his own half. They're sort of coming short and moving the ball around the back. And I think we're building up nicely. And I think there was a couple of times against Newcastle where we got ourselves into positions to break out, and we didn't really. And we kept trying this thing, which was also another positive pattern. A few patterns of play, because Lopetegui didn't know what that was. A pattern of play, like we continuously sort of launched the ball up to sort of, especially in the first half, we were sort of trying to get Souček and Alvarez quite high, launching the ball up, trying to get the flick-ons, and then work across from that. And I think the build up, considering that that is absolutely not going to be our team's first game next season. Like it just isn't. And I'm seeing positives in the build up, considering the negativity, also considering the amount of defensive players, if that makes sense. The amount of players that aren't, I don't think, are Potter players, but we're still moving the ball well. We're not creating enough chances, because I think there is that lack of sort of spark in the team at the moment, especially in the attack without Paqueta and without Somerville, without this Kudus not doing particularly great. But yeah, I'm happy the way we're moving the ball. I'm happy with the defence. I'm happy with some improvements in individuals. Like Wan-Bissaka's looking a lot better when he's asked to play at right back. Shock. I think Alvarez is better now. He was terrible on Lopetegui. Now occasionally has these crap moments, doesn't he? But I think overall Alvarez is playing well. Bowen's playing best he's played all season. Scarles is looking promising defensively. I think Scarles needs to improve a bit to go forward if he wants to be a wing back in a five. Because I think he's defensively been really good. Like some of his interceptions, so it feels like 3 times a game he just sort of like wanders onto the ball and just intercepts it really easy, makes it look so simple. But I think he needs to probably, I haven't really seen him take anyone on or like deliver a particularly good cross yet. So I think we're still positive because he's played, brought a youngster in. First couple of games, he's really impressed. So that's all positive. Todibo can't do over 60 minutes, but it's good for 60 minutes, isn't he? So I think there's plenty to be positive about. If we're looking to ahead to next season, if we use the glass as sort of what we are now, we're probably not quite there, but I'm seeing enough signs to think that we can be good next season, which is all we really want. All the critics thought this was an extended pre-season. This is we've got nothing to play for, and then we're moaning. And we're moaning when we've lost 1-0 to a half-decent Newcastle side. And there's been some frustrating performances at home to Brentford and Palace, but realistically, it's going to take time, so be patient.
Yeah,
it'll be okay. Yeah. I'm seeing enough improvement to go, you know what, this will be okay.
Nice. I like that. A lot of positivity. Will's.
I'm quite I'm certainly
Will's going to be
lose today. Yeah. He's already had a go at me. I saw him earlier.
He's going to be very livid listening back to this.
Yeah, he is. But I'm quite a negative sort of. I always feel like we're going to go into a game and lose. But I'm certainly seeing positives to go. We're on the right track. And Potter's, I think he's also talking relatively well as well. Like I will automatically feel, I don't know about you, but I never got sort of a rapport with Lopetegui at all at any point.
Yeah.
Potter, I feel a little bit more like, I can get behind him, I can support him. Yeah. So I think there's enough to be positive about.
Yeah, I agree. And I got that feeling about Potter in his first press conference. Just he had this aura about him that felt like it was very warm and instantly likable. Whereas you're right, kind of, although I probably gave Lopetegui a little bit more time than most in terms of patience, I never really felt like, I really want him to succeed.
He never had a moment, did he?
Yeah,
you know what I mean, there's these sort of moment. There's nothing there, was there? It's like scrappy win at scrappy win at home to Man United was the big one. Besides that, we didn't really get a big. Wow, this is a proper good win. No, it just didn't. Nah.
Yeah, agreed.
So I can automatically connect with Potter more, and I think we are moving in the right direction. But I think it will take time.
Yeah, agreed. Before we move on to just a couple of moments in that game, you mentioned a load of, you rattled off a lot of individuals there that you've been quite impressed with in terms of improvements and performances. I wanted to ask you about Alphonse Areola, because made a couple of very, very good saves on Monday night, and generally is considered to be, a good shot stopper, but his distribution is unbelievably, almost unacceptably woeful for a goalkeeper. Like on Monday night, the amount of times he'd look for the short ball, which is clearly what he's been asked to do, and he's either not moved it quick enough, or he's picked the wrong ball, and then he end up going long, and he's always kicking it to Dan Burn, who is the tallest man in London at the time. Like, the guy's a freak. He's massive. He's bigger than anyone ever. And it's just always go to Dan Burn constantly. And it was like, why are you not using your brain here? And then when he does go short, it's either the wrong ball or it's terrible. And maybe that is harsh. I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. But I just feel like, moving forward, is he the goalkeeper that stays in this team beyond this season? Or do you think Graham Potter's probably looking at going, I might have to go and buy a new one in the summer?
I think it's one of those where if there's a goalkeeper there ready for us, sort of affordable, I think we will look to go and get one. And I think if we can get sort of what we paid for Areola, we might take it. But I think because he still is a good shot, relatively good shot stopper, I think, if it shouldn't, it's it's a signing we need to make, but it's not top priority, if that makes sense. But I think, to be fair, that we are, the amount of times he did give the ball away. I remember one time, because I sit directly in line with that, and he passed across to Tadibo, and it went like backwards. Like, when do you see a goalkeeper pass backwards? And he wasn't trying to play it backwards. He's just sort of slice this simple 5-yard pass backwards, and then Tadibo sort of, threw his arms, and it was like, but this is the way sort of every team now wants to play, is with a goalkeeper who can almost act like an outfield player when we've got the ball, and be the sort of comfortable option in possession. And Areola he just doesn't feel like he's overly. He's not confident on the ball.
No.
And I mean, secondly, I think that's sort of like, the team can also feel that. So when at times when we could go, I know we could probably definitely pass backwards enough against Newcastle, but there are probably times where we could have gone backwards, and I think there's sort of a bit of hesitation maybe to go back to him. But I did see a good comment from someone that basically said Nick Pope and Areola were taking it in turns to kick it out the pitch, which was definitely true, because his kicking's no good either. So you've got to be careful what goalkeeper we go out and get. I don't know who it will be, but I do think we need someone, because long term, if we're going to try and play a different brand of football, then that getting a goalkeeper as comfortable at his feet is really important. But you can't take away how good Areola is at keeping the ball out of the net.
Yeah, I find, even though he's a good shot stopper, he's still inconsistent at shot stopping. And if you actually look at his
my theory is that he's brilliant like reflex saves, but like any sort of one that comes in from distance, he'll let it in.
Yeah.
I think his reflexes are unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that on 3 or 4 occasions on Monday. But particularly that one that came off of Kilman and kind of was looking like he was going to loop over him. But if you actually look at his record, I think it's 55 Premier League appearances for the club, and he's only kept 7 Premier League clean sheets. Like, for me, that's not good enough. Like, it just isn't for a Premier League goalkeeper playing at a level that we want to be at. I think his overall record is something like 80 games in all competitions and 25 clean sheets. The majority of those clean sheets came when he was our European goalkeeper and our cup goalkeeper, and we were playing, like, with all due respect, rubbish European teams in the group stages. So yeah, I like him, but I can't see him being a long-term player in this new look Graham Potter West Ham.
I'm not sure either. I mean, Fabianski's out of contract, right? Isn't he? In the summer?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, I think he's pretty solid as a number 2 option, though, isn't he? But it's if Areola is not. I don't think Areola will stick around to be number 2.
No, definitely not. He's already been number 2, hasn't he?
Yeah, he joined us to be a number 1.
Yeah.
It took a whole season for him to get that shirt, and he did deserve it for the work he did in the Europa League. But yeah, I do think probably do need another goalkeeper.
Yeah. Okay, let's touch on some of the moments. We won't go into too much detail for too much longer, but build up to the goal. Bruno Guimaraes in the second half, a suspected push from Isak onto Kilman. Actually, Isak's got previous. Someone showed a clip of a Newcastle goal last year. Did the exact same thing and it stood. It seems like it's an Isak trait of his that he just gives a little nudge, and it's sort of soft enough to be waved off by VAR and the referee, but it is still, questionable. What were your thoughts on it? Because I watched the extended highlights before we start recording, and I see absolutely no reason why VAR aren't looking at that game. That push has affected Kilman not being able to clear the ball.
Yeah, it definitely has affected Kilman because he goes up for the header, and suddenly he can't quite get there because he's got a little nudge. I think if you're trying to be fair, like it's so smart from Isak though, because it's the sort of push which is like it's not like flattened him. It's just a little nudge to like just to knock you off balance.
Just by
tiny little nudge,
bit of pace, yeah.
And it's that which is I think VAR have probably gone because they're now scared to overturn anything now, aren't they? They've gone the opposite end of the spectrum now. Too scared to overturn anything. So I think they're probably thinking it's not enough of a nudge to disallow it, but it's put a player off balance, isn't it? And I'm sure like it was highlighted film like again last season, or I think it was in the goal what you're talking about. Yeah, I think there's probably we probably look back over when Newcastle played other games. He's probably a move that he does because it's that little sort of if you can do it so well and get away with it because it's soft, but if you can when you apply that little bit of force, if they're already going for the ball, it can really like knock you off balance. Like you try and jump, and just before you go, someone gives you a little tap, it will throw you off a little bit. And it's one of those where I think it probably is a foul, and I think VAR is probably should overturn it. But at the same time, if that's a goal for like if Ferguson did that or something, or Falkwood did that, we'd probably be going, or maybe it's a good bit of intelligent striker play to not a defender off balance like that. So I think it's not like it's not Stonewall. It's not.
It's a grey area,
one of those
isn't
it just doesn't go for. Yeah, it is a grey area. I think it's just one that didn't quite go for us, but it's frustrating once you concede.
And the only other controversial moment in the game was at the other end. I thought we'd actually had 2 penalty shouts, but actually there was only one. I watched it back, and the Kudus one. I can't remember who it was, but they won the ball in real time in the stadium. I was like, why are they not even checking that? And it looked like a clear foul from where I was sitting. But the Bowen one, where the ball comes over and he's wiped out by Bruno Guimaraes, again, I don't understand.
You'd want you'd want one of them. You'd want the foul on Kilman, or you'd want the penalty. Like to get those two go again. I think that's incredibly unlucky. I'm not going to go. The Bowen one is the worst decision I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, of course not.
No, but I think again, I think there's an argument there. It is a penalty. We had a similar thing. Yeah,
clipped his feet.
Similar thing.
Clipped his feet.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I think I somehow managed to get away with it. Newcastle and Guimaraes always does every week get away with murder. And I think it was just again like incredibly unlucky, really, to not have one of those decisions go our way. And it's just unfortunate. It's incredibly unfortunate.
Agreed. Completely agreed. Yeah, it's and you're right. It was almost a carbon copy of the one against Brentford in the same spot as well. It was in the same area of that box. But it is what it is. One of those days. Last one I want to just ask you on. Evan Ferguson, 4 sub appearances so far, largely ineffective, but it would be harsh to criticise him too much given he's been given 15 minutes at the end of most games. Does he start against this weekend against Everton? Given the fact that we struggled so much going forward, and we sort of lacked that focal point against Newcastle. Do you think Potter might be looking at it going, right, I need to get a striker on now?
I think he absolutely needs to play Paqueta or Ferguson. We need something more going forward than what that lineup was, and like or else we'll get the same thing sort of happen to us where we struggle to create that many chances. So Ferguson, I don't know what to make because we've not really seen anything so far. We had the one chance against Leicester, sort of took too long. Looked like a obviously rusty forward. It looked like, and the forward hadn't scored in ages. But at the same time, I've seen, like good touch, good bit of link-up play. It's just difficult because it's difficult to say because he's come on for 20 minutes at a time, and it's like, so what do you think? Like, would you want him to stay next season? Because at the moment, I literally have no idea.
I have no idea. I think it's too soon. I've not seen enough of him. I do sometimes when I'm watching him, particularly on Monday night, I just felt like he was running about, but kind of just not affecting anything. Like he wasn't showing for the ball. Like there was stages where he was just wandering around and kind of felt like he looked like he was lost a little bit. That's probably down to the fact that he's rusty still and he needs more minutes at this level. But he has been relatively underwhelming for me. But I think it's too soon to go. Oh, thank God that hasn't got an option to buy or an obligation to buy in the loan. But at the same time, kind of wouldn't be surprised if it continues this way. I wouldn't be surprised if the club are like,
There could easily be a better option out there, couldn't there?
Yeah, it must be. I mean,
I've not seen too much so far.
I saw we've been linked with Tammy Abraham, which maybe I don't know. That's one for another.
That feels incredibly us.
Yeah. So that's definitely one for another day nearer the summer. Before we move on, let's just quickly touch on the Mikel Antonio tribute, Alex. I thought it was a nice touch. Good to see him back in the stadium, and I thought the fans gave him a fantastic welcome, and they obviously had that fan-funded tifo of him up in the Bobby Moore Lower. What are your thoughts, mate? Because there are now rumours that he could, and Potter even alluded to it afterwards, that there's a chance we might see him on the pitch before the end of the season, which seemed like almost impossible.
That's crazy,
Yeah.
If he comes back and plays any minute at like any point in his career, like that's incredible. If he comes back this season, he's an absolute machine, isn't he? Like, I think it was good. It was good to see. I think we need sort of more sort of those sort of like tifos and banners and sort of a little, just like something sort of add to sort of atmosphere. It doesn't mean like not the banner's not making any noise, but like it's just sort of something to sort of bring fans together a little bit. And I think you need something. I think like Antonio coming out before was sort of like a bit of positivity, a bit of sort of fan like togetherness, and a bit of noise that everyone needed. It was sort of, it didn't, in London Stadium way, it doesn't quite translate over to the match, but like I think it was positive to see, and it's good to see him back, like walking about. And I don't know, maybe we'll play again this season. I'd like to see him come on last game of the season for a little 5 minutes at least, wouldn't you? That'd be class.
Yeah, a little 5-minute cameo at Ipswich on the last day of the season.
Body someone out of the way and show us he's still got it.
Yeah. He's out of contract this summer. I'm wondering whether the club just give him a token 1-year extension.
He can still cause havoc off the bench if he can get back to, you can play the Danny Ings role surely. He like come on last 10 minutes if we need a goal, sort of, just sort of be a presence and physical, and I think he can still do a job. It's just how fit. Like we don't know how well he is. He might have lost so much pace, so much strength. We don't. It's difficult to say, isn't it?
I'm looking at going, well, both him and Danny Ings are out of contract. If we let both of them go, then we need to buy at least 2 strikers. Given there are other positions that we need to strengthen as well, I just think if I'm the club, I'm going, okay, well, we'll let Danny Ings go and we'll activate another 1 year on Antonio, and just saves having to go out and buy 2 strikers.
Yeah, unless you're sort of changing. It gets to a point where, I'm sort of guy. I don't know about you, but like someone like Alvarez is an example. If someone coming with a good enough bid for Alvarez, I'd probably take that. But at the same time, it's like, are we just going to like start selling everyone and get sort of 23 new players to create our squad? Where it's like that's not going to end well. So you need a bit of consistency in the squad. So yeah, I mean,
agreed. And Potter, actually, I listened to Graham Potter's interview. It was well before he joined West Ham on the High Performance podcast after he left Chelsea, and he specifically said the fact that he was bought so many players in one window by Todd Bowley at Chelsea that it made his job almost impossible.
Yeah, so they didn't even have enough seats in the meeting room or something for their players.
Yeah,
in the corridor, and that was ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's just like
and he
recruitment.
exactly. And he was like, I couldn't stop it because the guy's the owner of the football club and he wants to buy a load of players. He can go and buy a load of players, but it just made his job a lot harder. So I would be very surprised if he sanctioned many an exodus, so to speak. But it all depends on where we are with PSR and financial fair play and all the rest of it in terms of what we need to sell in order to fund new players. But yeah, that's a conversation for nearer the summer. We'll go into a lot more detail once we get nearer to the end of the season. But let's move on, Alex. Let's move on to after the break. We will just read out some. We did have a few comments on our Patreon, so I'll read those out, Alex, and I'll get your views on those. So yeah, all of that after the break. Sky Sports stats as Forest with the lowest possession in the Premier League, yet they sit third. Maybe possession-based football ain't all it's cracked up to be. Didn't do us any harm under Moyes. That's from Ben Orr on the Patreon. Certainly sucking up to Will's views about David Moyes and possession football. But I find it very hard to disagree. We had more possession against Newcastle. And famously, we had more possession against Leicester under Lopetegui earlier in the season and lost that game. What are your thoughts, Alex? Is the myth, or is it a myth that you need possession to win football matches? I know the answer to that, but I'm asking you, mate.
Yeah, that's obviously a myth. We all know that it's a complete myth. Moyes proved that for 3 years, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think people. What I am enjoying seeing, as someone who was pro Moyes, I think it probably was time to get rid of him. But like, I still absolutely love Moyes. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I'm enjoying seeing everyone who cried that Moyes football was terrible and absolutely woeful and it's a chore to watch us counter-attack at pace. Apparently that's boring. And now we're finding out just passing the ball around the back is also not that entertaining. And it turns out it's actually just all entertainment in football is all about just how many shots you get in the way, isn't it? Basically, that's what it all boils down to. It don't matter what you do. It's if you're getting shots at goal and you're winning, it'll be entertaining. If you keep losing and you not have any chances, it's boring. It's as simple as that. And yeah, look, I mean, I'm not surprised people are finding Potter's football overly patient. I think that's probably one of the things that when he first came in, that I think everyone was. If you watch Brighton, it was like at times a little bit too slow. And I think that will speed up in time for us, but like the play can be a bit too patient, a bit too robotic, and a bit too sort of stuck in your systems a little bit. I think that's probably something that Potter needs to work on. But yeah, look, Moyes football is not as bad as people make out it is. That's all I'm going to say.
I agree to an extent. I just felt like, I mean, we've done this so many times, so I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But I understood why fans got a little bit bored of it towards the
end. Oh
end.
yeah, no, I can understand.
Stopped getting results. It stopped getting results, and I think a lot of people that are still in that, in the mindset that, well, it's still got results, like almost conveniently forget that it stopped getting results, and that's kind of why the fans had enough, But I agree that, and there is a balance to be had between, having the ball, and being good in possession, but then also being good out of possession. And I think, Graham Potter's sort of doing the work to kind of make us good at both.
I think we're getting closer. Yeah, we're getting closer to being competent at both. So
Yeah, so I'm sure we would have enjoyed that little segment there. Paul commented after the game on Monday, he said, moment of quality beat us in reality and lack of quality in anything we created against Newcastle. Solid at the back for the majority of it and some good movement forward, but always shooting through traffic. Shooting through traffic, I couldn't agree more. I found that that's probably as a result of the lack of creativity that we had without Paqueta on the pitch and without a focal point in terms of a striker. Something that got to be addressed, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that probably goes back to almost what we just said just now. Like Potter at times overly patient, overly stuck in your system. Sort of, you need. I think without individuals I'm talking like Paqueta, Somerville. If Goodis is again, if he's turns up, they're the sort of players that can unlock a door. Instead of just like it's a bit sideways and it's a bit like, oh, well, I suppose we'll have to have a shot because all we're doing right now is just going to go, we're going to end up going backwards. So I'll just fire it into the centre back standing in front of me. Like that. Yeah. I mean, I agree with the comment. Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. The last one from our comments on Patreon, Jim Oddy. Hi, Jim. Regular listener, regular commenter. Always reading out Jim's comments. And this kind of goes against a little bit from what you were saying earlier, Alex, but then he does agree with other things that you said. Jim says, I think that James's summary on the BBC Sport is pretty spot on, and he's referring to my column that I write every week for BBC. I actually can't remember what I wrote, but thanks, Jim. Thanks for agreeing.
Very good, clearly.
Yeah. I thought that Kilman. Oh no, I did mention that. That it was mad that VAR missed the Kilman push. He said he thought that the Kilman probably had his best home game, and that Alvarez played well too. Personally, I thought a draw would have been a fair result, as I did not think either side did enough to win it. How VAR missed the push on Kilman was amazing, especially straight away on the halfway line. We were given a foul for the same thing. Baffling. We've definitely made improvements, but our passing around the back is so slow and easy to press. It does make me nervous at times. But we certainly look a better team under Potter, and hopefully the results at home will come soon. So you said earlier that you're impressed with our passing around the back. Jim is not so impressed. But it makes a good point at the end there about our home form, and hopefully the results will come soon. It has seemed like we're far better away from home at the moment. What do you make of that?
I think it's just because again we're trying to become hard to beat, and at times when you go away to Villas and Chelsea's, and there's there's an emphasis. I think there's an emphasis on us to attack at home, and when Palace, when Brentford when they've come, and I think we just haven't really had that sort of punch to us. That spark in the attack, and I think probably right now when you are a difficult to beat team, which is sort of what we're trying to be, which is sort of laying the foundations of what will hopefully be a better system in the future. But right now, when you're only playing three centre backs and your three midfielders are what they are, Ward-Prowse, Alvarez, Souček, and that's incredibly and then your top front two, Kudus and Bowen pace. I mean, that just you set up to defend deep and counter attack, and I think that's probably why we've been better away from home and better against teams that sort of want to attack a bit more. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
But yeah, I agree with literally everything that Jim said about. But the only thing I would say is that Newcastle are probably one of the best pressing sides in the league. So I think that's probably why they made us look not great. Maybe not great passing around the back, but I think overall we're a lot better in that area.
Agreed. Yep. Agreed, mate. Well, that's all from our comments on Patreon. If you want to get involved, make sure you do after next week or after every show. We keep an eye on them and we make sure we read them out every week. So do get involved in the conversation. And I think we're going to be a little bit more active on that in terms of maybe trying to spark a few conversations and asking people a few more questions to fuel this section of the podcast where we kind of bring you guys in so you can kind of engage with us a little bit more and we can read your comments out and answer your questions. Let's move on to the next section, Alex. We're gonna just discuss a little bit on Paqueta and his trial. We'll discuss Somerville's injury and then we'll have a quick look ahead to the David Moyes derby next. Okay, Alex. News came out a couple of weeks ago that a date had been set for Paqueta's trial with the FA for this for his betting accusations. It starts on Monday. News broke earlier that he's going to kick off on Monday. It's supposed to be a 3-week trial, which is one of the longest trials in FA history, apparently. The alarming thing is that the FA are pushing for a lifetime ban. It means that obviously it's a 3-week trial. It might not last 3 weeks. Paqueta still says he's innocent. Still is adamant that he's done nothing wrong. It could mean that if he is found guilty, then Saturday against Everton could be his last game in claret and blue, and potentially his last game ever as a professional footballer. Do you think it's going to come to that?
I mean, I didn't, and then I read something about it's like it's done on the balance of probabilities, so you have to be like 51%. Like, yeah, and then that's the sort of makes you go, oh god, like I have no idea what's going to happen. Like, it's like I was almost like I can't believe he would do it. If that makes sense, like why bother? Like some of the bets as well, like even like the biggest ones, I think it's quite big, isn't it? But most of them are like just like 50 quid, and it's like what? It's not. Yeah. Also, I bet the price on him getting a yellow card ain't even that good because he gets booked all the time. So what is the like? I find the whole thing bizarre, and then I found that there's a story about him. The FA gave me off your phone. No, I thrown that phone away. Like it's all just incredibly weird, and I couldn't tell you what way it's going to go. I don't have the FA got the bottle to ban someone, because that's a massive call. It's a massive call. I don't know if they've got the bottle to do that, but probably because it ain't a Man United player, or everybody, maybe they have, but it's a huge decision.
Well, this is my concern.
I've got no idea.
And I genuinely think, and this is purely my opinion, I think if he is found guilty and he is given a lifetime ban, it's not the last we hear of this. Like, I think the club won't have insurance, so the club will probably be looking for legal opinions on what they can do, and no doubt Paqueta will be as well in his legal team on appealing it. I think if it is the worst case scenario, which is a lifetime ban, I think this could rumble on for a good few years from a legal standpoint. And you're right. And with that in mind, do the FA have the bottle to do that, in the knowledge that they won't just be like, all right, yeah, you're banned for life, see you later, bye bye, and that's the last you hear of Lucas Paqueta and West Ham United. Like, they will know that it will open up a big can of worms.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, they're probably looking at it going, well, they've already had a number of players recently. Obviously, Ivan Toney being the most high profile one, and Sandro Tonali the other one, who have both had bans for gambling. Obviously, not as long, but they could be looking at it going, right, we've had enough of this. We need to make an example of someone here. And unfortunately, Lucas Paqueta is the man that they could make an example of. But I don't know. Because obviously we're not there. We haven't seen all the evidence. It's difficult to make a call. But
what's happened is a question. I don't think there's anyone. I feel like I've heard nothing about the Betis player who's also caught up in it. I feel like he's sort of gone massively under the radar, hasn't he? Not much is said about him.
Very good question. I don't know.
No one. I feel like nobody knows. It's just sort of hidden in plain sight, and because it all seems to be Paqueta, and it's it'll be one line dropped in. Oh yeah, also him. And it's well, he's done as many offences as Paqueta has, and I'm not hearing that much about him. Obviously probably in Spain. He probably replays. We are hearing more, but if Paqueta gets off or gets a lifetime ban, surely he's coming for the same thing, right? So
I think so. Yeah.
It can only happen at West Ham, can't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
of course, it's only like the only club to have illegally signed someone and then been fined record fee and God knows what else. Yeah, only at West Ham, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed it isn't a lifetime ban if he is found guilty. But obviously,
the only thing we might get let off, he's not. I mean, for lots of this season, he wasn't exactly playing like he's into his last game of his career. He didn't look half interested half the time, didn't he? So sort of smashing passes willy nilly. Like matters of times he tried a through ball, booted it straight at the keeper. It weren't exactly I'm playing for my life here. Like I'm playing because my career is about to end. It didn't look like he was overly bothered. So
yeah, maybe. But then there have been games. There've been games.
He's played well sometimes,
particularly under Graham Potter. I thought,
when he played in that false nine sort of striker role when he was holding the ball up, he did look really good, didn't he?
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't, because I think it's, I think it's almost like, again, it's a bit weird where we've sort of got a betting sponsor and loads of teams are betting sponsor, and constantly encouraged to gamble. Second it goes to half time, it's Sky bet in play now, and all that sort of nonsense. And then it's like if a player gets caught up in it, and then
banned for life.
Get banned for life. Then so something needs to be. Obviously, I think betting is going to be banned from sponsoring shirts, but that needs to come in sooner rather than later, I think.
Yeah, I think that ban has been agreed. But they're just waiting for existing contracts to expire. So that Betway shirt sponsor one, I think that expires in a year or so. And then obviously they had to give a load of clubs a few years grace to realise sort of agreed commercial deals and stuff. But I think that is in place now. Okay, fingers crossed it doesn't get to that for Paqueta. But I agree there is an element of the word escapes me, but it doesn't seem fair that clubs are allowed to push betting on fans. But yeah, let's move on to the Somerville injury. Another thing that only seems like only at West Ham. He pulls up in Graham Potter's first game with what seemed like, and what Graham Potter described after the game as not that much for quite a minor hamstring injury, and he's expected to be out for 2 weeks. 2.5 months later, he's still injured, and today it was announced that he's now refused surgery, and the club have no idea when he's going to return. Why? Why are you refusing surgery? I don't know.
It does. I'm definitely not. I'm coming in with my B biology GCSE, but does the surgery make it like harder to ever return to what you like your full fitness? Does that make sense? Like to he's quite relying on explosive pace. Would the surgery manage to mend the muscle, but he would lose a bit of power in it? I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm trying to think of a reason why he would not want the surgery, because he would just be like, I'll have it, right? So something must be stopping him, and I think maybe it's like maybe he wants to heal naturally, or because that would improve his long-term fitness rather than constant sort of, when players get repetitive injuries. I don't know, but that's the only reason why I could think that he would refuse surgery.
It's a good question, and there's probably an element of truth in that, to be honest, mate. I actually hadn't thought of that. I just saw the story earlier and was like, for crying out loud, like we could do with this guy. Like he was impressive, he was good in that 45 minutes in the FA Cup game before he came off at half time. So it's just frustrating that whenever we get a player injured, Jared Bowen aside, who just sort of breaks a bone and then's back in 4 weeks. Like any other player gets injured, sort of be back in a couple of weeks, and then you just never see him again. Fulcrum, one of them, Somerville the other. I don't know. It's just a frustrating one.
The thing that frustrates me is if it's like it's obviously clearly a bad injury. Why don't the club come out and say when it like the week after it happens and go, he's going to be out for a while. It's a bad injury. Instead, they do the whole, he's going to be back in 2 weeks. Don't worry about it. And then it gets to 2 weeks. Another two. Yeah, another two. number 2. It's
Yeah.
like, just say he's going to be out for ages, and at least fans can just be like, yeah, okay, we won't see him for ages, fine. But instead, it's like, is he back this week? No, okay.
Yeah, it feels like. Do you know what? I reckon they knew straight away, but they didn't want to tell fans because obviously fans knew that Fulkrug was going to be out forever because of the way he pulled up in that game.
Yeah.
So to say, oh, by the way, we've just lost two of our key players to hamstring injuries that are
in
going to
January.
keep them out in January for 4 or 5
where everyone's
months.
going to be going, sign someone.
Yeah. Maybe they've gone, oh, we can't really afford to have two. Yeah, we'll just say Somerville's not too bad.
Yeah.
And no one will notice. No one will notice. But we have noticed. So it's a shame. It's a shame. Right, we're coming very close to the end of the hour. I'm quite pleased that we've managed to drag this one out, mate. I'm quite pleased. Let's have before we finish up, let's have a quick look ahead to Saturday. The most anticipated game for the last few weeks of West Ham season, the David Moyes derby. It'll be our last ever trip to Goodison Park as well before their season, their stadium move next season. It's got David Moyes win written all over it. Quite frankly, that he's got them playing. I think they're unbeaten in 7. There's about 6 draws in there, but he's got them. Got them very hard to beat, unsurprisingly. What do you reckon, mate? We are better away from home. We've touched on that, but it is David Moyes' Everton, and we know exactly what to expect. I don't see anything other than a 3-0 Everton win, unfortunately, mate. I don't know about you.
Yeah, there's no way we're going to win. There's no way the football gods will let us win that game.
No,
like we're gonna. You just know they'll score like a Tarkovsky will score from a corner in like a sort of Dawson fashion, and it'll just sort of some odd Decore will get a Souček like goal, and it'll just be like watching. We'll get or it'll be like, we'll have loads of chances, and we won't score any, and then they'll go up the other end and score, and it'll be like, this is what we used to do to teams. This is like unfair. And we're just never going to win, are we? And also, I feel like our record at Goodison's like horrid, isn't it? It's got to be. I think we won a couple of times recently.
Won there last year, didn't we? Won there last year.
Yeah, we actually think recently we improved, probably because they've turned awful in the last 3 years. But like, I feel like when Moyes, like Roberto Martinez was at Everton, I feel like our record at Goodison was atrocious.
Yeah, you just know every time that game came around, we'd be losing 3 or 4-0.
Yeah. In the Lukaku days.
Oh yeah, but I mean, Lukaku played for anyone, and he'd like he could play for Barnet and score a hat trick against us. Like the guy just loved a goal against us. But give us a score prediction then, mate.
We're going to lose 2-0. What do you think? You said 3.
So I know I said I can't see anything other than a 3-0 defeat, but I'm going to stay positive, and I'm going to say a 1-1 draw.
I'll take a draw. Draw would be a decent result.
Draw, yeah. I mean, Newcastle game aside, we picked up points that we didn't expect to get at Arsenal. So yeah, I'd definitely take another point that we didn't expect to get. And that will probably put us around about 15th maybe in the league. Another thing that annoyed me just quickly about the Newcastle game, that it didn't annoy me, it just frustrated me, is that we had a chance to go above Man United and Tottenham because they both dropped points over the weekend, and we didn't take it.
Yeah, that is something hilarious about the fact, United and Tottenham are constantly next to us, but I feel like we're never above them. I feel like every time in the season, maybe it's okay. Tottenham actually dropped like a little bit. Remember there was that little week everyone thought Tottenham's going to get sucked into relegation battle, then they won. And they went, wishful thinking. We're just constantly like a point or like a goal difference sort of behind them. And weirdly, if it's like, because our aims this season aren't, we're not going to get top 10, are we? So it's like, let's just try and get above Tottenham and Man United and Moyes. That's the only thing we're playing our mini table of how not to run a football club. That's what I think. West Ham, Tottenham, Man United, Everton.
Yeah. 4 shambolic football clubs.
The terrible owners Premier League there.
Yeah. 4 shambolic football clubs competing to be the least shambolic of the other 3.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really care whether we finish above or below David Moyes, to be fair. Like, I love the bloke. I'm glad he's doing
Yeah, I
well.
do.
I'm glad he's
Yeah.
got back to Everton. I'm glad he's doing well there. And it seems rather poetic that he's the guy to lead them into that new stadium, because he's one of the main reasons why they've been in the Premier League for so long. And yes, they've been terrible and they've probably outstayed their welcome since he left, but he's a legend there, and so it's quite poetic that he's the one to lead them there. But I really, really, really want us to finish above Tottenham, because it would just be fantastic that Tottenham, since Postecoglou arrived, he's definitely winning us the league. He's come out and gone. I always win a trophy in my second season. That second season has been a disaster for him. And so if we were then to finish below West Ham in a season where West Ham have fallen off a cliff and ended up finishing 15th, for me, that's like winning the Conference League all over again for me. Just to not quite. I jest. Don't take that literally. But it would be hilarious, incredibly funny for me.
There's also something incredibly poetic if they do go out to AZ Alkmaar in the Europa League, a team they beat en route to winning the Conference League, a sort of team that was called Farmers, etc., by loads of Tottenham fans. So that you'll enjoy that one as well.
Yes, very good point. I watched that game.
I think they have Frankfurt possibly next, which is another team that we lost to them, but another team. I think they've got them next if they win. So there
you go.
Exactly.
I watched that game with a big grin on my face, not just because they were losing, but it brought back incredible memories of that game, the tenseness of the 90 minutes, and then the vision of Fornals just breaking through and scoring in that right in front of the West Ham fans. Brought back a lot of great memories. So I enjoyed that game. And I hope
that was one that's probably that's got to be such an underrated game, because it obviously gets overshadowed by the final now. But that moment with Fornals, that's to seal it last point, and that was it's different.
Yeah,
and it couldn't happen to a better player, really, could it as well?
Oh yeah,
what a guy!
Yeah, love the man. Bring him back. Bring Pablo back.
Yeah, let's just start a petition.
We should. Yeah,
bring Pablo back.
I mean, he's doing well. Is it Betis now, isn't he?
Betis,
he's doing well. Yeah, playing under Manuel Pellegrini of all managers.
Yeah,
love it.
Funny.
Okay, Alex, I think that brings us to the end of this week's show, and if I can close this out in the next 1 minute and 50 seconds, we can be on exactly an hour, which is a surprise, really. Right. Well, thanks, Alex, for stepping in on Will's behalf after he's pulled out through work. We've got Everton on Saturday at 3:00 at Goodison Park. Our last trip to Goodison Park, and it is the David Moyes derby. Before we go, make sure you follow us subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on TikTok, on Twitter, and on Instagram. Just search for us. I can't remember the handles for each one. I'm rubbish at doing this bit. Everyone knows that, but I've got to do it. So just search for us. You can find us. Alex does a fantastic job across the socials with a lot of clips after every single show. So make sure you go and do that. And obviously, for less than the price of a cup of coffee, you can subscribe to us on Patreon for ad-free listening and early access to every show. And obviously, you can engage with us on there. We read out the comments from fans every single week. So please do that. It keeps us going. Puts a few pennies in the pocket to keep the podcast running with all the costs that are there. It doesn't go into our pockets. It goes straight back into the podcast to make sure that we can provide the best podcast possible for you every single week. That's it for this week. Will should be back next week, hopefully. I know he's back off again for a few weeks. He said he's going away for the international break, but we do have one more show before then. So Will be back next week. But until then, looking forward to the David Moyes derby. Thanks for listening. West Ham are massive, and we'll see you next week.